Do I think the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is still worth it after having the phone for 2 months? Well, in this video, we're gonna find out. This video is sponsored by ToneGate. This is ToneGate's case for the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 with the included privacy screen protector. Not only are you getting maximum protection with this case, but you're also getting versatility and next level convenience. This case gives your Z Fold 7 full body coverage with reinforced corners, hinge protection, and even a built-in privacy screen protector to keep your display safe from scratches and prying eyes. In addition to that, this case features its own built-in kickstand, which is super convenient. You can use this with both the outer display and also when the phone is folded open. So I love the versatility of this kickstand, and it makes it great for watching videos, hopping on calls, or really doing anything with your phone hands-free. Now this case is fully compatible with MagSafe, so if you are someone who loves to use magnetic charging, then this case is a perfect option for you. And best of all, installation couldn't be easier. Just snap the case on, and the precision cutouts align perfectly with your ports, buttons, and the fold's unique hinge. There's no complicated steps, just instant precision and functionality. And in addition to that, we also have a belt loop adapter, so you can put the adapter on your belt and then the case snaps right in. Then from there, you have a quick release, so you're able to access your device. So if you want a rugged case for your Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 with maximum versatility, a very useful stand, and also support for MagSafe, then you should definitely consider going for this case from ToneGate. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now I can't believe it, but it has already been 2 months since I went to Samsung's Unpacked in New York City, and that was when I first had the opportunity to use and test out this phone. And since then, it has been very interesting. I would say this is one of the most exciting phones in Samsung's Fold series, at least since the original was launched. And this phone really does break the barrier, at least when it comes to how thin the phone is and the various features that we're getting this time around. And this phone really does step it up a lot from its predecessor. Now, before we get too far to things here with the Galaxy Z Fold 7, let's see what all comes included in the box. So here is the box. As you can see, it's a pretty slim box, but at the same time, it is pretty large because when the phone does ship, it is shipped in the open position. But we're not getting a whole lot included, really just getting this packet here. And then in here, we have a SIM card removal tool. We're getting a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and we're getting a quick start guide. Now, it was really cool being there in person for the official launch of this device. That was actually my first time ever going to a Samsung Unpacked, and I think it was the perfect time to go to one for the first time, just because of how significant this phone is. Now, in addition to this device being so slim, one of the biggest aspects about it that Samsung was especially making a big deal about is that we're getting very good cameras this time around. Now, for a long time, people felt like the Z Fold cameras featured a bit of a compromise compared to Samsung's more premium flagship cameras because they had to cut corners at least somewhere to give us a folding phone at a somewhat reasonable price tag. These cameras certainly are much better, and you'll see later on in the video a bunch of different photo and video samples so you can be the judge yourself. Now, I absolutely love this color of the device. It is called Blue Shadow, and I also like that we are getting a matte finish on the back of the phone. Now, you can see some fingerprints here and there, but for the most part, this color is so bright and vibrant that it really does take over. I also like the look of the hinge on this device where clearly it says Samsung right there. And Samsung has really been pushing this device very hard in their marketing. I'm sure if you've been anywhere in public, you probably have seen advertisements for this device. And one of the things they're especially pushing this time around is that when the phone is folded, it's essentially the same thickness as a typical smartphone. The actual thickness of this device is essentially the same thickness as the USB-C port on the bottom of the phone. So based on that, this is probably as thin as foldables are gonna get, unless for some reason we drop the USB-C port or we change the way that smartphones are charged. Now, one of the downsides with the design is that since the phone is so thin, and because the cameras are so good and high-end here, we are getting a very large camera bump on the back of the device. Now, for many people, that's not necessarily a big deal, but I will say that when the phone is on a desk, it does rock quite a bit. I mean, it rocks more than really any other phone I've used before. So if you are typing basically on a surface like this, then you certainly will notice a lot of movement here with the device. But I'm not really sure what the alternative would have been. I'm certainly glad the phone's not thicker in exchange for the camera bump being a little bit thicker as well. I think they did an excellent job with the design, and I also like the boxy corners that we're getting here with the device. And that leads me on to the next thing about this phone that Samsung is especially proud of, and that in real life I noticed to be very good. And that's the outer display here. Now, basically, you can use this phone completely with just the outer display if you wanted to. Of course, we're getting the full operating system here, so technically, you never have to actually open up the device, but there really are no compromises with this outer display. We're getting very small bezels all throughout here, and then up top, there is a hole punch for the front-facing camera. Now, that front camera is 10 megapixels, and in addition to that, when you fold the phone open, we have another 10 megapixel camera right there. So there really is a lot going on with this device. We're getting 2 selfie cameras, we're getting 3 cameras on the back, so we're getting 5 cameras with this phone, not to mention that we're getting 2 displays here as well. Now both displays are LTPO AMOLED 2X, they both feature a 120Hz refresh rate, so a very fast and responsive refresh rate on the displays on this phone. This outer display is 1080p, so it's 1080 by 2520. This outer display is 21 by 9, so it is very tall and narrow, but at the same time, not too different from other smartphones that I've tested that aren't even folding phones. And the display itself is 6.5 inches. And I think this refresh design really does reflect upon the reality of how people are using this device and really any other foldable. For most day-to-day tasks, you truly are using this outer display instead of literally folding the phone open every time you want to use it. So with that in consideration, it's definitely important that the outer display is a good one. Now when folding the phone open, you can see here, we have a much bigger display. So this display is 8 inches. This display is considered a foldable dynamic LTPO AMOLED 2X. We're also getting a 120Hz refresh rate here with the display, so super fast and responsive as well. And this display is a PPI of 368, and we're getting a 90% screen to body ratio. So super small bezels all throughout. And if you compare this phone side by side with the original Galaxy Fold, it is such a big difference with how small the bezels are here. Now I have gotten some questions previously about how obvious the actual crease is in the fold part of the display. And as you can see, you certainly can see it. But if you are looking at the display straight on, and especially if you're looking at something specific on the screen, maybe you have a movie pulled up, or you're looking at photos, or just going on social media, you really do forget that the crease is there. It really does feel like one big display. I was doing things such as playing Fortnite on this device with it opened up, and it was just a great experience. You really do feel like you're playing your games on a tablet, which this pretty much is a tablet. And in fact, compared to your typical tablet, I would say it's pretty much thinner than what you'd find with most tablets. Now the only downside with the design here is that sometimes it is a bit difficult to grab on to open up the display. So you do have to kind of get used to it, and if you do certainly use a case with this phone, that will make it a lot easier to open up the actual foldable aspect of the device. And I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, it's just something to keep in mind there. It's not like they should make the phone easier to open up, because you don't want the phone opening up accidentally. And I think also because of that aspect of the device, that's also why it's so important that this outer display is as good as it is. Now with this device, we're getting 256 gigabytes of storage, along with no micro SD card expansion. So keep that in mind. You are stuck with the internal space that you're getting here on the phone. And of course, there are higher storage configuration options available as well. And that's definitely really awesome. It is amazing that they're able to fit a full battery in this device while still giving us wireless charging, all in a very slim profile. And then having it be 15 watts definitely does make it decently fast. And then with this phone, we are getting face unlock, but we're also getting a fingerprint sensor located on the power button, and that's super fast and responsive. So no issues there. So it's not really a big deal that there's no in-display fingerprint sensor. I think that would be a nice thing to have in the next generation of the device, but I certainly don't have a problem with the fingerprint sensor being on the power button. Now taking a look at the cameras on the back of the device, this is certainly one of the more noteworthy things this year. Basically, they describe this phone as having ultra-level cameras, which I would say for the most part is true. However, at the same time, I do think the Galaxy S25 Ultra does have better cameras in general, but this is definitely pretty close, and certainly I don't view these cameras as being a compromise necessarily. Now, when I get to my review of the Galaxy Z Flip 7, it's a little bit of a different story there. I feel like that phone could have better cameras than what we're getting, but I'm actually very happy with the cameras here with the Z Fold 7. Now we're getting a 200 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images up to 120 degrees, and we're getting a 10 megapixel 3x telephoto camera. Now here's how things look in the camera app. This is with the main rear camera right now. Then from there, you can go over to 0.6 for the ultra wide camera, and then you can go over to 3 for the 3x telephoto. So I definitely appreciate that we are getting so many different options here. When it comes to video recording, we are getting 8K video with the rear camera and 4K with the front-facing camera. But of course, the especially cool thing about this device is that if you go here and tap there, you can switch over to the cover screen, and then you can see yourself through that as a viewfinder. So we'll open this up. You have full controls, and you can see I'm hovering my thumb over the selfie camera on the cover display. So you can see it's not using that camera, it's using the cameras up here. And then I love how many different options we're getting. So we can do 0.6 for ultra wide, we can zoom in really far, and it really is very powerful and a nice thing to be able to have a viewfinder essentially for these really high quality cameras on the device. And maybe you're doing something like taking a video call and you want to use the selfie camera on the outer display here, you can certainly do that as well. Or if you want to, when the phone is fully folded open like this, you can also use that camera for your selfies and selfie videos and really anything else. So I really love how much flexibility we're getting here with this device. In a sense, it almost feels like we're getting two smartphones here. So certainly when it comes to having all these various cameras, they do kind of all serve their own purpose. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now I certainly had quite a bit of time to test out the various cameras in the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now you can see these images. I'm curious to know what you think about the quality. Again, I don't feel like the quality is quite on par necessarily with what we're getting with the Galaxy S25 Ultra, but at the same time I understand some compromises still had to be made with the cameras on this device, and despite those compromises, the image quality still is incredible. And especially when you're taking video, which you'll see in a second, I feel like the stabilization is really good, and just having that ability again to use the rear cameras, but then to look through the cover display as basically a viewfinder really is useful, especially if you're a content creator. I feel like this phone is really good for that. There's just so many different tips and tricks you can do with the cameras on this device, and you really are just getting so many different options with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. So if you are a creator, then this phone really is the dream for you. And be able to do things like taking selfies with the ultra-wide camera is really cool, especially if you're in a large group. Now, when I was in New York City with Samsung for Unpacked, they did take us to a New York Yankees baseball game, and this phone was great in that environment. I was able to zoom in really far and catch the action of the game. I was able to take some nice looking selfies, and this phone was really a great mobile companion when I was at the game. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the Galaxy Z Fold 7. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here with the Galaxy Z Fold 7. I'm taking a video right now using the rear main camera, but I do have the screen flipped around so that I can technically use the outer display as the viewfinder while using the main camera. So this is with the main camera. And then now I'm going to switch over to the 3x optical zoom, and you can see it's a lot closer here, clearly. Now I'm going to switch over to the ultra wide. So here's the ultra wide camera. So this is definitely a great way to take some awesome selfie video so that you're able to literally see yourself in the display while still using the power and abilities of those main cameras on the back of the device. And then now I'm taking a 4K front-facing test video using the outer cover display camera on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. So this is not using the camera on the back of the device, this is instead using the camera that is built into the outer display. Definitely curious what you think of the differences between those two cameras. And by the way, if you hear kind of a humming noise in the background, that is my air conditioner, so that's not anything related to the phone itself, so just keep that in mind. And here's a 4K test video using the main rear camera on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And we do have really quick autofocus in video mode, which is definitely really good. Now I just switched over to the ultra-wide camera. And then now the 3x telephoto camera. And I do like that in a single video frame, you can switch between the various cameras here on the device. Now we're back to ultra wide. And then now the main camera once again. Now with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, we're getting 12 gigabytes of RAM, or if you get the 1 terabyte version of the phone, you're actually getting 16 gigabytes of RAM. And then the processor here that we're getting with the device is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. But basically, I'll pull it up here, I got a single core score of 2581 and a multi-core score of 8894. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to really see how this phone measures up. But I've got to say, I am very impressed with the performance of it. Of course, this is a flagship smartphone. It performs like a flagship, and you can pretty much throw anything at it, including more advanced features even like Samsung DeX. And this phone does not have a problem at all handling all of that. Now with this device, we're getting a 4400 milliamp hour internal battery along with 25 watt fast charging. Now, I'll be honest, 25 watt fast charging isn't really that impressive. I mean, at this point, we're seeing faster charging in many other smartphones, and even the Galaxy S25 Ultra charges way faster than this phone. Now, it will be at least good enough. I don't think you'll be frustrated or annoyed by it, but I do feel like that is something that could be improved upon in the next generation. And then with this phone, out of the box, we're getting Android 16, along with Samsung's One UI 8. Now, if you know anything about me, you'll know that I'm a big fan of both One UI 7 and 8. I feel like that's a big upgrade compared to the past. Samsung really has taken their software to the next level here, and that has continued on with One UI 8. So I'm a big fan of the software that we're getting here with the device. Now with this device, we are getting an IP48 dust and water resistance, so you can submerge this phone underwater for up to 1.5 meters for up to 30 minutes, and you can put this phone through a bit of dust. And I obviously haven't really tested that myself. I want to take decent care of this phone because I'm just not that type of creator. But I have seen other people really put the phone to the test in dusty environments, like taking it to the beach, and the phone did at least survive. Now, I personally wouldn't recommend doing all of that. Keep your phone as safe as you can keep it, but at the same time, feel free to use it. Don't feel like you have to baby this phone all the time, because it is truly a durable smartphone. And even when it comes to folding and unfolding the device, it can handle hundreds of thousands of folds. I believe it can handle 500,000 folds, and there's no way you'll be doing that. That's for sure. And I've seen people really try to rip the phone in half on the opposite direction of the crease, and they literally cannot do it. So again, that's not something I tested myself, but at the same time, it is really cool to see though that this phone is so durable. And I remember previous generations of the Galaxy Fold, a lot of people were much more timid with how they handled the device. But now with the 7th generation of the phone, Samsung really has figured this out and made the phone especially durable. But now that it's been 2 months since getting the Galaxy Z Fold 7, I like it even more than I did from the beginning. This phone has proven to be very high quality, super durable, and just a great experience overall. Samsung has really found every nitpick that people might have with a foldable and eliminated those with this device. Whether it's the great cameras, the awesome display, the durability, and then even having useful features like Samsung DeX, this phone really is the full package. Now, whether or not you need a foldable device is certainly another conversation worth having. But that's also why Samsung kind of has something for everybody. So most importantly, I'm curious to know what you think about the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. This is Kevin here. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.